and welcome to What Writers Should Know. We decided to name this wonderful thing that we're trying to do here, and it's Super Writer Education. My name is Erica Lance. I'm the CEO and founder at Four Horsemen Publications. And with me today, I will pass it over to J.M. Paquette.
Hi, I'm J.M. Paquette. I write cheesy vampire romance love triangles with happy endings, and I'm also the lead editor at Four Horsemen.
Yes, yes, yes. And with us also is the amazing Valerie Willis.
Yes, I am co-founder of Four Horsemen and author of fantasy romance with flawed characters and lots of mythology and things. But I'm also notorious for being an expert book designer and publication specialist.
Awesome, awesome. And this particular episode is called This Planner Will Change Your Life. So what we are talking about is the author's accountability planner. And why is this important? So every year we put out this planner, and the goal of this planner is to help authors start from January all the way through the end of the year, but you can pick it up at any point in time. And there's links in the show notes to it. And the reason we do this is because writing is hard. Writing is hard, and people forget that. So I want to start because this actual brainchild was a little bit of the genius of, I'd like to say, of Miss Valerie Willis. So, Valerie, why did you come up with putting together this planner?
Well, it was really, you guys came to me and you're like, COVID is ruining our, our ability to be accountable, Val. And you guys came with a mountain of ideas and concepts, but when you have a concept and an idea, putting it in book format can be very hard, especially when we're talking about workbooks, books meant to interact with the audience and try to promote them to keep at it or come back to those pages in some way, some shape or form. And then we wanted to kind of, something that you guys repeated a lot was, how do we make this feel like this is a writer's group in a book? And not lose that momentum, not lose that interaction, the advice, the excitement, all these things, right? And that's, I started tossing ideas. I think we even sat down and started drawing out pages at one point and going back and forth and changing things. So it was really a group effort. I just know how to use InDesign really good.
Absolutely.
But the idea that, and then we finally decided, you know what? Let's put muses. Muses is a concept not new to anyone. It's in Greek mythology, but let's put personas within these pages that are going to interact with the author through every step, through every week that they're experiencing, in hopes of giving them a piece of advice or something and then inspire them to write and things like that. So, but yeah, that's how it came about. It was, classic pandemic. We lost that actual human interaction and the idea of how do we recreate this in a book? So.
Absolutely. And Jen, you were very instrumental in the accomplishments. Do you want to talk about why? So let me just start. We did it so that every week you're tracking your accomplishments. I mean, that's one point I want to touch on right now. But having daily accomplishments, even if you can't do it daily, there was a lot of the accomplishments you helped put together here, and not just writing, right?
Yeah, we wanted it to be more than writing, because like tracking words is one thing. A lot of writing planners have word counts, but we wanted to account for everything. So there's space in there for like research, there's space in there for editing, there's space in there for like the other parts of writing that are also time spent on the activity. And then tracking was really important. And I mean tracking, not just writing down numbers, but like what did you want to do this week and what did you accomplish this week? And just having it actually written down and not just in your memory, because you're like, I'll remember it. No, you won't. If you write it down, then you're like, oh, what did I do this week? That's what I did this week. So having space for that kind of recording was important, I think.
Absolutely. And one part that we included, Val, you just touched on it, was the muses. So one of the things in, this accountability planner has gone through iterations as we've learned things and feedback. authors who are using it. So we modify it every year based on feedback and how things, and we include muses that give little piece of advice, right? Whether it's advice to sort of, we always joke that I'm going to motivate you. We joke that it's a little bit of a taskmaster because I'm going to be like, what are you doing? Put your phone down. Let's get to writing, because that's how I, do a lot of motivation. But there's also like research motivation, how to look at your work, how to stand back, because creating a writing community is huge. And then this year, with the Muses guidelines, we also created a Discord that you can join to be a part of a writing community, which how to join the Discords in the back of the book, but it's so that you can continue on having and creating a community, because that's one thing as writers, it's such a solitary art form that you need people. And I want to say community and not critique group. I want to be super clear, because critique groups are interesting and can be helpful, but I've also seen them be very destructive for writers, because it's one thing to have educated people. It's different to have, people who are telling you what's wrong with your book when they may not be an expert on that. So that's why we went, hey, there's some things you should look at. Not all of us are perfect writers. None of us are perfect writers. Ask my editor. But it's definitely a way to have a community. And then I want to talk, actually have Valerie talk a little bit about your reflection period, like re-looking at what was good and what was not great. Val?
So that was, I would say that was something I was adamant about. Goal setting was an absolute. Jen was definitely dead on with that. We discussed, well, how do we keep accountable? What are some of the unique things we do, right? And of course, she even has a section in the goals, because we decided to write an intro. Like, let's sit down and talk about these different aspects that this journal is supposed to touch on. We don't expect you to do everything that's in this journal. This journal is it's a tool, use it how you need it. But in short, I think one of the failure points is not being aware or of what your seasons look like as an author, right? So a lot of us have day jobs, a lot of us have families. So I know that the moment the kids are out for summer, my writing goes a little janky, right? I have to shift my gears. I have to start scheduling time away from home to go write. I call it a date with my laptop on a Saturday or Sunday, sometimes maybe in the morning on a weekday. It depends what my shifts look like, right? And then I know holiday season, I might as well give up. The moment I am in about, and of course it sucks because November is famous for novel writing month, right? But that's the month that I have the hardest time. The moment I hit like mid-November, it all goes up in smoke, and I don't get to touch really and sit down and start writing until January almost, because there's just so much going on. There's so much travel. So, but I have written my stuff down. I have tracked what I do. And because of that, and that's what this journal encourages you to do, I now plan to do more marketing, more recordings, because for some reason, for the rest of the year, when I don't sit down and do YouTube short videos and things like that, I'm doing most of that in December and during the holiday, because it's easier to sneak away, or I'm someplace with a great backdrop more often in those months. So it's about recognizing or helping identify your ebbs and flows and how to transition your goals. Again, and I think we both all have touched on this, we didn't want another word count tracker. Like, there's so many options for that. There's programs for that. There's everyone's like, oh, track your word. But there's more to being an author. There's more to being a writer. They even tell you to be more successful, you should start marketing and interacting with your audience way before your book gets picked up by a publisher or you decide to self-publish it. And we wanted you to be able to do that in this book as well. So.
Yes. No, exactly. And again, the cool part is the groups that are associated with this book allow you to also have other authors who are now on that same journey with you that can help you. Because I feel like as an author, and I know I'm incredibly guilty of this. You both know I'm incredibly guilty of this because you're so much better than me. life happens and writing becomes the last thing that I'm paying attention to because everything else comes first. And it is so easy. It's like one of the easiest hobbies, I feel like hobbies or life goals, I should say, or whatever. However, you're doing this, you could want to be a professional author, or this could just be something you're doing on the side, or you have a story to tell. It doesn't matter the reason you're doing it, but if you don't make the time and if you're not consciously aware of your goals, because I think a lot of people don't look at the end and what it takes to get to the end. I want to write a, paranormal romance story. I don't, you guys do. But if I did, that paranormal romance story, for the most part, when you're talking about like publishing an actual book, whether it's self-published or trying to get a publisher, we'll have many other videos on that. It's 80,000 words. Well, how the hell are you going to get to 80,000 words? People don't think like I need to plan this out and need to track how close I am to that goal of 80,000 words. Because otherwise, I'm just writing. If you're happy with a book taking you 5 years to write, that's good. But I'll tell you, a reader can devour a book in a day or 2 days. So you got to think with how fast your readers are going to do this. So how much time do you need to put into writing? When do you need to schedule it? And Val, you also touched on the stuff we do outside of it. Jen, you helped come up with some of the little exercises. We have a couple exercises to get your brains going in these.
I did. We have the it has a lot of exercises, but before we get off this goal thing, I do want to mention the punishments and rewards thing because
Oh yeah, yeah.
there when you set your goals at the beginning, it's got a whole thing about setting goals, whatever, for the year, for the month, for the week. Um, you have to decide if you are motivated by rewards, like if I do this thing, then I get this prize, or are you motivated by punishments? And I have found that I am motivated by punishment because I'm like, you know what, I don't need that thing on Amazon. I can live without it. So, but if I say if I don't write, I have to take the stairs at work and I can't take the elevator and I'm super lazy and I don't want to walk up 3 flights of stairs back and forth all the time, then that's what works for me. So it does ask you to kind of think about yourself and how you respond to, goals and how are you motivated. But the exercises. So we've got the 5 minute exercises with words. So we give you 2 words. You set a timer. You do a sprint. You write a story that includes those words. So there's things like that, and then there's also homework exercises. I call them homework because I'm a teacher. They're work if you want to do it. But there's stuff like check out social media, follow 2 people who are in your genre, and see what they're doing. There are things like update your bio this week, come up with an elevator pitch. So every week there's something small that you should be working on that's related to your writing.
Absolutely. And so, Jen, you touched on, so that's important, right? And the rewards and punishments, I agree completely because stairs. And that's just one example, but figure out a way to reward yourself for what you're doing if that motivation works for you. Everybody's writing journey is different. Every single person, all 3 of us here write completely differently and have pluses to how we do things and have minuses to how we do things. I will say that. And one of the minuses that happens with Valerie, but then now she gets to talk about this too. Trust me, we all have them. I change people's names from chapter to chapter. It's fine. My editor loves me for it. She's on this. Don't worry. It's great. It's great. They do love it. Is Valerie will go down a research rabbit hole. But one of the things I think authors don't track are these types of activities. So, Valerie, do you want to talk about some of the other activities you want to track as an author?
So, there's so many counterparts to being an author, whether you're just at the writing stage, if you're just doing this as a hobby, but you kind of want to be aware of your steps and stuff. So I think that's why we like we keep discussing, like we wanted something more than word count. You should be aware of how much time you spend at each stage. So and then when you realize so some of the compartmentalizations we have marketing, research, reading hours, brainstorming, and editing on top of word count, right? If you're spending all your time and brainstorming like ridiculous, like 3 months of your year on just mulling around and kicking the ball back and forth with your imaginary friends, you might want to refine that process. Or, so this is feeds right back into being more aware of your process, or learning how to identify your process and your ebbs and flows. Some of our authors have figured out, thanks to this planner, that there is a month and season for them to do their brainstorming to prepare for writing and other things for the rest of the year. And I think that's incredible. That's incredible all the time. Others are like obsessed over word count. And I keep telling them, I'm like, dude, you can write a novel in a year on just 300 words, a 10, 15-minute sprint, 10, even 20-minute, let's say max 20-minute sprint during your lunch break, and Monday through Friday, and let's say you don't even do anything on the weekends. By the end of the year, you have 50,000 words. Every month, you're writing a chapter or two, depending on what kind of genre you're playing with there. So word count doesn't have to be astronomical to move you forward, but at the same point, you should be aware how much is the rest of your time going to these other elements. Or perhaps you realize, man, I've gone 8 months in the year and I don't have any time spent in marketing or editing, or, you can't, and we hear this all the time. If you don't use it, you lose it. So that's kind of true when you're self-editing and things like that. Write a short story. I think even Ursula, a really big sci-fi female writer, says all the time, like, hone your skills with short stories. Like, if you're part of a critique group, short stories are going to fix most of your problems faster and identify your bad habits faster than trying to chunk an entire novel on someone, or pay for just a small edit on smaller pieces to kind of learn where the editors see you folding and your strengths and weaknesses. So, but that's what this book is going to help you identify, right? That, okay, I need more time here, or I haven't spent time here in so long. I might need to take a moment. I might need to invest some time there. So it's sort of a weird way of also exposing gaps alongside where you're overspending your time at the same time. And yes, research, I can hours, days, maybe.
Yes. No, it's true. And so I want to talk one more thing, but this year we did something a little bit different, which I'm going to turn over to Jen in a minute. But we touched on the exercises we have you do, the 5-minute sprints with 2 words. Val just touched on the sprints thing too. You need to, like running, like doing any activity, you get faster the more you practice doing the activity. So using sprints and figuring out what your pace is, because I talked in the beginning about the goal of, say, 80,000 words. That was one goal. Or even, as Val said, a 10,000 word story. When you're talking about writing something like that, how long does it take you to write a 10,000 word story? I can tell you right now, between the 3 of us on this particular video for you, I am the slowest. I am the absolute slowest of all 3 of us writing. I think Val is the fastest, and then Jen is a very, very close second, but they probably skip in front of each other depending on the day and the week and the month and the year. But you have to see what's right for you. Then you can really set your goals. I know how many words I can write, but when I started doing the little exercises and started doing the sprints, I became faster at writing because I had that little deadline going, and I'm like, okay, I need to get faster. So I got to a really good pace at about 20-minute sprints so that I could keep going. That doesn't mean you have to do them forever, but you can start training your brain on how fast you have to go. Another thing that came up and was kind of requested, so our wonderful J.M. Paquette here fulfilled that for us, was prompts. You want to talk about writing prompts a little bit there, J.M.?
Well, there's a whole separate book and video about it. But yeah, there is a separate writing prompts book that is designed to go along with every weekly theme. So if the theme of the week is like shameless self-promotion, then there's a writing prompt in the book that coincides with that and has you write little short snippets about, I think there's something in there for that week, probably about fame, Like what would it be like to be famous, or you're suddenly famous or infamous, something like that. So they're creative prompts that are related to whatever the theme is. If the theme is character, then it's going to be, write something where you just found out you're the character in a story like Stranger Than Fiction or something. So they're just little creative, bursts that you can write in a really short. You could do like a 500 word, just a, little blurb, or it can give you an idea for a story or even a novel later on. So I love writing prompts, because then when you're like, what do I want to write now? You could go through your old stuff and be like, oh, I like that one, and then expand it. So.
I love that. Okay, so we need to wrap up this video. So I think what I want to do is ask each of us to kind of say why we think this planner will change your life as a writer. So I'm going to start and say this. It keeps you accountable. I mean, it's called the Author's Accountability Planner. It keeps you accountable, whether you just use this, whether you use this with the writing prompts book, whether you also join the accountability Discord server where you're with other authors. It keeps you accountable to your writing and your goal, whether it's a goal for personal use, whether it's a goal for self-publishing, whether you're a world famous author and you just need something to keep you on track. This can be your new best friend to do that. That's why I think this planner will change your life. JM, why do you think this planner will change people's lives?
I like it because blank pages in this thing are creepy. I'm like, oh no, I didn't write stuff down this week. What did I even do? And it also gets me out of my head, because I'm like, I'm a writer. That's all I do. I write stuff. And then I look in here and I'm like, oh, I didn't do anything else. I haven't done marketing. I didn't do, well, I always have editing because editor. But it lets me kind of branch out from just doing the one thing. So that's how this changed my life.
Wonderful. Val,
So
why will this change an author's life?
this will change your life because it's going to make you more aware of what type of author you are. I think everyone's always like plotter, pantser, plantser. No, it's more than that. Are you, do you prefer to do your research more, like we've discussed that earlier? Are you more of the editor type? But it lets you identify yourself and then assists you in the act of creating goals, and not creating monster goals. Like everyone's like, oh, I'm going to write an 80K novel. Okay. How about we just work on writing 300 words in a week? Like chew it, chew it small. Like one of my favorite, and I think this is one of the biggest things that I added to this book, is part of that identifying goals aspect this book will do for an author, is that I break down what the current word count is for chapters, for web novels, for different genres, the different types. What is the difference between an epic novel and a regular novel? Well, it's about double the word count. Like it's intense. And then if you start mixing stuff, you kind of have to find that sweet spot between these. But it's the whole idea that this book's going to help you identify what type of writer you want to be, what type of writer you actually are, and how to accommodate your goals accordingly.
Exactly. And it's super pretty. I know that we're just highlighting, but it's very pretty, fun book to look at. Lots of pretty pages, colors, tracking. It's fun, and it's yours to write in. And if you're one of those people that refuses to write in a book, guess what? You can write in this one, because we do a new one every year, and you'll get a different one and be able to track it for everything. And this can be for one project or 10 projects. It works the same. You don't need 10 books for 10 projects. So what I will say is this, the link to getting this particular books and any of our books are in the notes below, the show notes. And like, subscribe, follow us for more of what writers should know. We're going to do this 2 times a week because we are writers and we feel other people should know these things. Of course, as always, your writing journey is your writing journey. You don't have to listen to us. You can take some of what we say, all of what we say, none of what we say. We just want you to be a better writer. So from me and Val and JM, we will see you guys next time. And we hope you keep writing, because that is the most important thing, even though it's hard. See you next time.